Okay, so I watched the Gina Carano interview with Ben Shapiro that was I watched it over on his YouTube channel. I try to do a whole reaction again. They don't work for me, but I'll just do a sum up and see if I can remember some of the points I try to make. My audio wasn't right. It worked, but it wasn't right. So, um, yeah, she spoke about being new to politics. She said she hadn't voted before, which that's kind of upsetting, but I personally I hate politics too, but I've had to pay attention to them all my life. I'm from Massachusetts, from a very blue area. My mom, her only interest was to talk about politics, so if I didn't talk to her about politics, I wasn't going to talk to my mom. That was like her only interest in having a conversation. So, and over time, I mean, myself, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of music. I'm a fan of movies, and that became my focus. And over the years, movies and politics became combined, which is sad because movies should be an escape. It should be, a way to understand the human condition and to feel feelings, the right way instead of being butthurt all the time. But as I said, I used to talk about movies all the time on various websites, and at one point I just pretty much used to go to this one Awards Daily website where they write about the Oscars and who's going to win the Oscars and stuff like that. And I went there for years, and they write articles, but then there was a heavy presence in the comment section of those of us who liked movies and would champion movies that we wanted to see win awards, or actors or directors or whatever. And it became a community where you saw this, talk to the same people. I mean, you see them, but you talk to them in the comment section over years. And then at some point it started getting political. Um, the whole website became that way, but then in the comment section, fights would break out, and it would be about politics and about the politics of a movie. And things started becoming strange where, let's say you didn't like a movie and it centered on black people. If you didn't like it, that meant you were racist. Not that you liked another movie better or anything like that, but it started becoming that sort of political thing got drawn into movies, and I didn't understand where that was coming from. But as time went on, it got more and more and more like that. And people who I'd never had a problem with, now they're fighting with me and calling me names that I wasn't. So I'm sitting here listening to Gina Carano talk about this, and this is like stuff that just me as a fan home communicating with people through the internet on a message board. It was going through the same thing. People applying things to you and, calling you transphobe, homophobe, stuff like that, and taking your words and twisting them. I mean, these are all things that happen to me just as a fan. And in that one website I would go to, I was talking to the same people for years, and suddenly, I was being called cis. I didn't know what a cis was. I had to ask. And I guess it means if you were born a female and you feel like a female, then that means you're cisgendered. Or if you're born a male and you feel like a male, then you're cisgendered. That means you were born in the body that you feel like. So I started to become a bad person just by being a cis, or I didn't have a right to my opinion by being a cisgendered person, or whatever you want to call it. But I was getting called this word cis before I knew what it was, as if it was an insult. So I had to find out what it was. And that's where I started finding out about this militant wing of the left, where they were just trying to find anything you would say or do and twist it to prove that you were against them. And it was very strange because this is why people term these things a witch hunt sometimes, because like you're trying to take what people say and twist it to fit what you want to believe about them instead of what's actually true. And a lot of that is, I would hate to call it paranoia. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people, they've never met you before in your life, or in their life, they've never met you in real life, but They take one thing you say and then that's it. They know you, they know your mind, they know your heart, they know everything you think. And a lot of people have been going through this over the last 4 or 5 years. We know why. But it's gotten to a critical point where now, the last couple of years, they're really trying to cancel and remove people from society if they don't toe the line, which is their line, which is their very militant point of view. That's on, it's not even the left or the extreme left. It's these groups that I don't even believe these people belong to the groups that they're fighting for. You know, I don't even believe half the time the people attacking any of us on Twitter, on message boards, anywhere, are actually part of the trans community or the LGBTQ community. They're just on the attack. And sometimes she brought up bots. I've said myself, I think they're bots because there are a lot of people, or you go on Twitter, their screen name, they start attacking you. Their screen name is all, there's no capital letter. These kids have never heard of a capital letter. I'm saying kids because they act like they're supposed to be kids. They have, meaning underage. They have no capital letters in their name, and they have like butterflies or flowers or something. And they're all like that. All the people attacking you, they don't have a picture like a person's picture. I don't know if it's a cartoon, whatever they have. But they're attacking you and they're ganging up on you and they're calling you all these names. And in my opinion, I started to say to myself, you know, I don't think these are real people. There may be a person who is being paid to have a lot of accounts to drive, as we say, this narrative. I'm so sick of the word narrative, but it is what it is. It's a narrative. That are being there to drive this narrative that they're fighting for the rights of this marginalized group, when in reality there aren't that many people that actually hate the marginalized group, but they're trying to do that in order to leverage some kind of power for, you know, this group that's not being hated as much as their narrative needs them to be. And I don't know who's paying them, or if there's somebody paying them, or if they actually are a bunch of kids who, for whatever reason, have all been taught the same thing and are like, when you see people like this, you have to call them out, you have to attack them, you have to cancel them, you have to put their name in a hashtag that says blah 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 is over party, or cancel blah blah blah, or in this case, the case of Gina Carano, it was fire Gina Carano. You know, they got their way eventually, but I question whether they're real people, and I've said that before. She said the same thing. You know, are they bots? Who knows? We don't know who these people are. But the fact of the matter is, like I said, I watched like 1.5 commercials, 1.5 episodes or something of The Mandalorian when I got the free trial way back when. I do not watch this show. I ended up following Gina Carano on Twitter, like I said, because I caught her tweets and it seemed like she agreed with me about issues, or she seemed pretty cool. And I guess like I was probably following somebody who was following her that retweeted some of the things she said. And over the last political cycle, it's been really hard to continue to follow people on Twitter who hate you because you have a difference of opinion or whatever. So you start looking for people to follow, and you start following James Woods, and you start following, you know, Kevin Sorbo, because you want to be able to be on Twitter and not just get a headache all day with people thinking you're the worst piece of shit human that ever lived when you're not. Like I said, I was a liberal until after a while being on that website talking about movies, the other liberals who were championing, labeling themselves as a liberal, were now telling me what to do and think, and if I wasn't, then I was a horrible person. I'm like, if that's what a liberal is, I'm not that anymore. You know, I've been registered, you don't register as independent. In Massachusetts, if you don't want to be a Democrat or a Republican, you're what they call unenrolled. So you're in neither party, and that means when you go to vote in a primary, let's say, you go up and it says unenrolled, so they ask you, what do you want? Do you want a Democrat ballot or do you want a Republican ballot? So you can vote in either primary each time. And then, you know, that's truly independent. So you're not registered for any party. That's what I've been for 20 years now. So listening to her, how she got involved in this political arguments, it's interesting because she said she never voted before. So she was a novice in a way to the fight she was stepping into, the vitriol and the just caustic haterade that comes from this political battle. This basically teams. It's just the people who really believe in that, the people who really died in the wool Republicans and died in the wool Democrats, they've really been fighting this fight with incredible stakes, probably around the Clinton years, because when they decided to impeach him, you know why, it was bullshit. And, now when they impeached President Trump twice, which is bullshit, it's just about two sides trying to win these battles. It's a game to them. It's just like people playing video games. It's just a game to them. Meanwhile, people's lives are being destroyed. People are suffering under these two political parties that don't care about anybody. But for the people who are really into it, it's a pastime. It's a pastime for them. It's like Red Sox and Yankees. Red Sox fans hate Yankees fans. Yankees fans hate Red Sox fans. If you would think that this pandemic would have been the 9/11 type situation to bring them all together. But no, people are still separate somehow because that media narrative has kept on going. And Hollywood is totally about that media narrative. Now, she was talking about how she just ended up getting, attacked and everything else. Now, when she said the beep bop boop thing, I was watching that. I was following her at the time. I saw her say beep bop boop. I probably liked the tweet at least, if not retweeted it. It's because you're sick of people telling you what to do and say and think. Nobody has a right to tell you that you have to say something. Like I said, Black Lives Matter, again, went along with that. This is what, you have to say Black Lives Matter. If you don't say Black Lives Matter, that means you hate black people. So people were starting that shit with the pronouns. If you don't put your pronouns in your bio, then somehow it makes you anti-trans. That's their thinking, which is ridiculous. You're just trying to force people to do what you think is important. Okay? So she goes and she puts beep bop boop, and I understood, and it was funny to me. But oh no, it's the worst thing in the world. And that's the kind of thing I think they're referring to when they say she denigrated people. The beep bop boop, I think, was the denigrated part. Anyway, so she's talking about that in this interview. And it's clear that she was just, minding her business, tweeting here and there, not thinking it's that big of a deal. Meanwhile, she's dealing with people who this is their whole life. They live for this. They live to call people out on Twitter. They live to cancel people. If they're real people, they could be bots. And she spoke about her background. She spoke about where she comes from and how she, fights for people and doesn't want people to be bullied. And that's exactly what they're doing. And there's a really stupid idea amongst those people that feel like they were bullied and they were victimized, that the only way you can be bullied or victimized is if you're low on the totem pole. Meaning, anybody who has white privilege can't be bullied because they're the bulliers, because they're on top. Anybody who's a man can't be bullied because he has privilege and he's on top. Like, you can't be racist against white people because they're on top. Of course you can be racist against people. You can be racist against anybody. You can bully anybody. You know what I mean? So it seems like the whole argument she was entering into kind of got past her to that point, or she wasn't like that involved politically, but she'd seen people being destroyed by this and she didn't like it. And she said that people would come to her on the set and she would have to stand up for them or comfort them or whatever. And it's like, that's the tough part. When you back people, when you're somebody who fights for other people, and this is the thing, in the old days, I used to fight for gay people. I used to fight, I remember when, again, on these message boards talking about movies, I remember Brokeback Mountain versus Crash. I remember how much I fought for that movie. I remember how much I hated Crash. I remember how stupid it was. I remember on Oscar night going to the IMDb message boards, which they don't have anymore, and going on the Brokeback Mountain thing and seeing all the anti-gay comments, the nasty comments from the people who were so joyous that the film had lost. because they hated gay people. And I remember being heartbroken and sitting there and reading that and going, I can't believe this is happening. Why is this happening now? This is not the olden times. Why are people this stupid still? And it was just so sad, you know. And, you know, to then, you know, not even 5 years later, for me to start being attacked in a group where I was fighting with them. In the Brokeback Mountain days. Now I'm a horrible cis person. It's just people get caught up in a narrative. They get caught up in a dogma that's being pushed, and then they start looking for enemies everywhere. And they start looking to take what you say and twist it and make it into something to prove that you're against them. Like I said, I don't know if these are real people. I don't know if they're bots. Sometimes they are real people, and I feel bad because there's something that they want to believe that people who are basically on their side aren't on their side enough. You know, if you don't say the exact right words that they want to plant in your mind and in your mouth and have those words come out, that proves to them that you are against them. And it couldn't be any further from the truth. You're for your own rights. You're for your own rights to think and speak and have your own voice. And they're trying to take that away from you. So if they need to take away your voice in order for you to prove to them that you're on their side, there's something really screwy and wrong. And that's what's happening to everybody. And that's what happened to her. And I thought the interview was really good. She spoke about how just she even when she went into Hollywood, she didn't know who Steven Soderbergh was, you know. So she just kind of ends up in these situations where she's a noob in a way, but it's okay and it works out for her. And I think it does because she follows her own path and she sticks to her own convictions, and therefore the path just opens up and it's lighted and it's, you know, the path she's supposed to walk. And all the things with these memes and stuff, and she posted a photo. Like I said, I mean, my problem not right before, but a little bit before this, Arnold Schwarzenegger, after the Capitol riot, he likened that to Kristallnacht. I'm not Jewish. I know what Kristallnacht is. When he made his comments, everybody was applauding him, and I was like, wait a minute, if I was Jewish, I would have a severe issue with him equating the little people attacking the power structure in the United States of America that they believe took their vote away from them. They're attacking that, and he's equating that with Kristallnacht, which was power trying to eliminate the little people. So to me, Kristallnacht was one of the worst things that ever happened. People's lives were destroyed, their buildings were destroyed, their homes, their stores was completely destroyed. And everybody applauded Arnold for making that horrible correlation just based on broken glass. Because that's what Kristallnacht is, right? Broken glass. Because, you know, when they did this to the Jews, they broke all the glass in their windows, in their homes, of their offices, of their storefronts. And there was glass everywhere. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, think tank that he is, equates a broken window in the Capitol building to Kristallnacht based on glass. And it was the exact opposite. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, his family were Nazis. He's from Austria. His family were Nazis. He said this a million times. He came to this country and did wonderful in this country. But, I mean, he got that wrong. And he was applauded for it because he was on their side, meaning the side of the people who generally do the witch hunts and generally do the canceling. Because he was saying that the Capitol riot people were the bad guys and the government was the good guys, meaning he was a governor. Of course he's going to be like government good, little people bad. But in the case of actual Kristallnacht, little people were good and they were trampled underfoot. And for him to make that correlation was just wrong. It was zero, wrong, should have never been made. He was applauded for it. She put up a photo, compared the way people are being pitted against one another. I've said this in another post. She likened that to the way people were made to hate one another in the days leading up to the Holocaust, which is not wrong. You have to, the powers that be, the powers behind the scenes, the ones that want to make the mess, the ones that make the world a horrible place, they're the ones who pit people against each other. You know, Germans versus Jews, red versus blue, Democrats and Republican, you know, genders, religions, whatever. You pit people from different groups against each other, and that's how you win. That's how the people in the background, that's how they get over. That's how they're able to always hold on to power, maintain power, get power. And anybody who plays into that is a problem, or is working for them. And the problem right now is people like her aren't working for them. Or if they do, they're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to say what you want me to say. I'm not going to over apologize. She brought up how they wanted her apology wasn't enough. They had a media person go to her house. And like I said, the thing that amazed me, the media person told her that you have to answer an emotional response with an emotional response. You can't answer it with a logical response. I was like, well, why didn't anybody tell me that for the past 20 years? I've been suffering with people because I'm sitting here trying to make sense, and they just want to be in their butthurt feelings. And it's like, I'm not your therapist. I'm not your mummy. I'm not your whoopee. I'm not going to give you cookies and milk until you feel better if you're just wrong about stuff. But that's apparently what you have to do now if you work for a major organization that wants you to apologize enough to people who are just throwing a temper tantrum until they get that apology. And I want to wonder why a major company would kowtow to these people who are throwing temper tantrums. But I know it's not about what it appears to be about. I know it's about people like Lucasfilm and Disney, who their overlords are. I've said who their overlords are in a previous video. They are doing the bidding of those who would silence people because they want to make it. People have brought up 1984 in our current political situation for reasons. If you haven't read 1984, you got the gist of it. Read the book. If you can't read the book, watch the movie. The movie is not as complete as the book, obviously, but the idea is they want the people in power who are behind the scenes, who are lighting fire under these media companies' butts and Disney and everything. They want there to be thought police. They want to keep up the war between, Eurasia and Oceania, something like that, so that you will be preoccupied with that bullshit war between red and blue, so that you will just continue to hate your fellow man, and that'll keep you busy. Meanwhile, they're running your life and keeping you oppressed. And by you, I mean all of us. All of us. And if you play into it, you're guilty. Now, I know what's going on and I don't want to play into it. I've been paying attention to politics and I don't want to play into it. She's just being affected by it and she doesn't want to play into it. You know? She said there were people who came to bat for her. I'd love to know who that is. The fact is, she brought up, not having a voice. And this is what I don't understand myself about people. It's like, if we go back and we look, take any scandal, take anything where people kept their mouths shut, how about instead of the Holocaust, let's talk about the priests molesting kids. How did that go on for so long? Because nobody said nothing. People were ashamed. They were embarrassed. They didn't want, parents were so worried, oh, the priest is, he's powerful. He's like God's right hand. I can't say anything. Maybe my kid's lying. How many people covered up for the abuse that these people of power were doing to these children, so that it went on for a long time until the dam finally broke. I think the people who, I think one of the guys I know here One of the guys who originally spoke out ended up, he died. I don't know if he OD'd or if he committed suicide, but you abuse people for so long. At some point they have to stand up for themselves, and most people can't. And she was talking about how she's strong enough, and she's obviously a very strong person, and it takes that, it takes that to jump ship. It's so sad, but if people understood, if people could watch this, people who are in her field, people she knows, people she doesn't know, who've gone through that, just the way you have these Me Too people, you could do the other side of it and you say, you know what? Yeah, this happened to me too. I was told that I had to say this and that too, or I was going to lose my job. I was bullied into apologizing for things that I didn't feel like apologizing for. I was told that if I didn't agree with these political statements, that I would never work in this town again. Because that's exactly what's happening, you know. And I hope that people watch this. I hope that people see what she said. I'm glad that this interview was done. I hope that she's able to have a good career. She says she's getting scripts and stuff like that. I hope to God it's people I like, who are very powerful, who are quiet conservatives. I hope that people will just start behaving appropriately and not keep their mouths shut, because I was always under the impression, or I was always taught, that if something's happening to you, it's happening to other people. And that's why I'm not an activist, but other people might say that I was, but that's why when I had a problem, I would say something about it. I would stand up and say, hey, you know what? This is happening. And then when you do that, when you stand up, when you raise your hand, even if you go to a public meeting, if you stand up, if you're the first person on the dance floor, which I was always the first person on the dance floor, if you're the first person on the dance floor, then it's okay for everybody else to go. Some of us have to be the first person on the dance floor. In this case, it's Ms. Carano here, and I think it's amazing that she did this. I think it's really awesome. I hope everybody watches the interview. I'll put it over here. Like, you need to find it through me, because God knows I got like 2 people watching this. But, I think she's really brave. I think it's amazing what she's done. I wish all the best for her in this fakakta world going forward. It's scary times, especially when the powerful are so desperately evil and so just treacherous and snake-like and underhanded, and they will take anything you say and do and twist it to get rid of you, because you won't co-sign their bullshit. You won't co-sign onto their oppression of everyone else. And she should be applauded for what she's done. And I hope that everybody can be inspired by that and find their own voice and use it. Okay?